The Nova Guest List Podcast
with Kieran McGuinness.
The very best in indie, alternative and homegrown music from the seriously addictive Radio Nova.
Yeah, that is Permanent by Ryan O'Shaughnessy on Radio Nova. A great tune from, I think, 3 years ago now, 2020. So Ryan has been playing for years. He was, I don't know if you remember, but he was in Voice of Ireland and Britain's Got Talent in 2012. He represented Ireland in Eurovision in 2018, and there was loads of good stuff there, but there was a controversy as well. So he's had a fairly mad kind of musical life up to now. But I'm going to talk to Ryan in a second. I suppose I would have thought, Ryan sat in the sort of, and I'm a terrible man for doing this, but I kind of thought he sat in the kind of pop bracket firmly. But the new songs, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, they're still very melodic. They're still the production is still very focused, but there's a kind of a more interesting feel coming into them. And I'm really his new single came in called The Moment, and I went, yeah, this is going somewhere that I'm really kind of interested in. And I'm really, really lucky to have Ryan on the line right now. How you doing, Ryan?
How you doing, Kieran?
I'm well. I'm not as well as you. I heard your breakfast this morning, I heard, was unbelievably healthy. So I'm assuming you're very well.
Yeah, well, we all have to try our best, don't we? We
do have to try our best. Now, would you think that's fair? Like, you've had a kind of a roundabout way of getting to where you are now. It must be really great it feels like you're in a really nice groove musically. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. It's been a kind of a lengthy enough career, maybe 12 years of making tunes and putting out songs and kind of within the music business. So I think you have to just keep evolving, keep trying new things. I always try to not focus too much on what I want to make and just try to make whatever comes out,
Yeah, but I think that's a really interesting thing. And please forgive me, Ryan, for I've sinned, because I would have kind of said, this is, what you do, this is where you're comfortable. But you do seem to be pushing against that a bit, especially with the last couple of releases. It's just like that song Permanent, when that came in first, I was like, oh, okay, there's a maturity, there's a development here in the songwriting. And I'm not giving out awards or anything, don't get me wrong, but it's really kind of pleasurable to hear an artist kind of move forward in their career kind of creatively. Was it a deliberate decision to do that, or did you find it was just naturally what was coming?
Well, firstly, thanks very much for that. It's nice to hear that, especially coming from, I was signed with Sony when I was 19 and quite young, and kind of went through the funnel of the pop world for a while. But I left Sony because I wanted to. I didn't really enjoy the process and how they were kind of working. And then when I started putting out songs myself, I wanted to try and make sure that I was trying to be as authentic as possible within the songwriting. But in 2020, I suppose, when I was writing Permanent, I had kind of stepped away from music for a while. And I feel like I do that sporadically over the last maybe 10 or 12 years. Kind of step away for a year or 6 months and go travelling or do new things and learn new skills. And then when I come back to music, I feel like I'm coming back with like a fresh outlook. I think that kind of is shown within the music in a way.
Yeah, well, I think that's an interesting thing about having to revitalise yourself. It does feel like your career has moved through a few phases, which is really kind of interesting. And it's always interesting to see, doing Eurovision in 2018, it'd be very easy to say, okay, I've done this, I can capitalise on this kind of thread, but now I'm going to move into a sort of we were talking about Arctic Monkeys earlier on, and they've moved in a different way, and some people aren't happy, some people are delighted. And, I'm sure there'll be some people who listen to your stuff and say, oh, this isn't as maybe simplistic, not that your music was simplistic, but a lot of people want simplicity in pop. But it seems to, like, there's a depth coming in that's really kind of exciting. And you described it in the press release you sent, you described it as mind-bending. And I thought that was kind of, it caught my attention in the press release.
Yeah. I think a lot of artists and people I know recently are talking about, if you're creating music for a specific audience, there's going to be some flaws in there. There's flaws in everything, but there's going to be particulars that are forced. And I'm trying my best to not force anything with these new songs that I'm putting out. It's like I moved back I was in Central America in December, and I moved home. I just decided to lock myself away for a month and make songs, because I hadn't done that in a while. And the variety of tunes that have kind of come out, definitely a good mix of genres. And I was reading something this morning about genre being kind of a man-made construct. It's like, because music is just music, and I think I'd be a bit like yourself. I'd listen to a bit of everything. I think I felt when I was younger maybe 19, 20, I was like, okay, so I play guitar and I write love songs, so this is what I do. It's something I can still do, but there's other things I enjoy, you know. I was listening to Tom York and Johnny, their project The Smile. I was listening to that around December, January, and there's elements of that have come through in these new songs, you know. So I'm always just trying to create whatever's coming to mind, and I think that's fundamentally it's what I enjoy. And I feel like if I enjoy it, other people are going to enjoy it too.
Yeah, totally. You know, when we were signed to Universal, I always felt weird as a part of a bigger machine there. And then when we left and we delivered an album that they didn't want to promote in any way, I kind of found it freeing. But I felt like I took all that experience almost like it was like a boot camp. You know, it was like I learned all this behind the scenes stuff and the way people kind of talk to you and the way, I guess, the industry works. And then I was able to use that to my own ends, you know. Is that something you feel kind of has happened over the last kind of 10 years?
Oh, 100%. So I left school when I was about 16 and I joined the boy band, you know, and I went and I was trying to do the singing thing with the band, and that didn't work out. And then I went to BIM for a year. I kind of dipped my toes in songwriting. I actually learned more within 6 months of being signed with Sony. You see, I'm a very practical learner as well. I find it hard to sit down and pay attention in class and stuff like that. So I feel like I did kind of do my time and kind of get my apprenticeship, let's say, with Sony, and I learned a lot. I learned what I want and what I don't want, and what to do and what not to do. So that's something I was definitely able, a bit like yourself, to kind of bring forward to some independent releases, yeah.
Yeah, well, look, the releases, especially, I think maybe since that song Permanent, which felt like a turning point in your career, there's been a lot of great releases. The latest one is the song The Moment, which I'm going to ask about in a second, but it feels like it's coming towards an album, and I'm just, can you tell me a little bit about the album, or what can you tell us?
Yeah, so I basically had a goal in mind in January, because I hadn't really put out an album since, I think, 2015. I said, right, I'm just going to create a new body of work, whatever comes out, and I'm going to see it through, and I'm going to put it out. So yeah, The Moment is the first release, and we should be expecting another one in about 6 weeks.
Oh, great! And then an album.
And then an album towards the end of the year, yeah. Oh,
brilliant! Well, look, that's going to be really, really exciting, especially like with build up it's been. And so, is Permanent on the new album? It's a totally new project coming from The Moment. Yeah, so I kind of see those songs as kind of standalone, little projects that I was able to work on around COVID and stuff like that. But this group of songs I really feel is kind of belong together, so I'm going to keep them as one unit. Brilliant, really, really enjoying the releases, Ryan. But before, we're going to play the song The Moment now, which is the new single, and as I said, it really jumped out when it came in. And can you tell us a little bit about the song before we play it? Yeah, so this is actually probably one of the last tracks that I wrote when I was making the album. I couldn't stop listening to it, so I decided to put it out first. And like I just said, if I'm enjoying something, someone else I think is going to enjoy it too. So I wanted to kind of put that foot forward. But yeah, I suppose what I was thinking about at the time was life's too short. We have to kind of accept every day as it comes and try to make the most of it. So that's living in the moment for me, Yeah, absolutely. Ryan O'Shaughnessy, pleasure talking to you today. Have a great Sunday. Thanks very much. And have a great week. And let's play it. This song is called The Moment by Ryan O'Shaughnessy. And this is Radio Nova.
The Nova Guest List Podcast with Kieran McGuinness. The very best in indie, alternative and homegrown music from the seriously addictive Radio Nova.